welcome to Lumberjack Impact. I'm your host, Blake Neubauer. Lumberjack Impact is the show where we highlight the amazing faculty here and explore all things that make SFA great. My guest today is an assistant professor in the Department of Languages, Cultures, and Communication here at Stephen F. Austin State University. He's also the leading faculty and coordinator for SFA Study Abroad program, where 176 students were able to study abroad in 15 different countries last year alone. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my guest, Dr. Mario Morera. How are you today?
Buenas tardes. Boa tarde, galera. Hello, SFA. How are you doing? It's great to be here.
I love it. I love it. So 176 students, as mentioned, 15 different countries. But your specialty, Spain and Brazil.
Lucky me, and thanks to SFA because of the opportunity and especially for trusting me in such a life-changing task.
So what do you think, were you able to get Spain and Brazil?
It is kind of a tradition in our program. Actually, I kind of inherited the responsibility, which is not, because I get to enjoy those two programs as much as the students do. And those two programs used to be in charge of our chair, Dr. Gina Polureña, in the case of Brazil, and Doctors Juan Carlos Ureña and Carlos Cuadra. They used to be in charge of the program in Spain. And when I came to SFA in 2018, they made me part, and thanks to them, once again, they made me part of the programs because my previous experience in Costa Rica was working and organizing programs like this for 15 private colleges from the Midwest.
So how has studying abroad in Spanish-speaking countries like Spain, Brazil, how do you think that's impacted students' language acquisition and their cultural understanding?
That's an amazing question. Okay. Something you have to keep in mind is that this is the 21st century, and you guys are not people just from Texas. You are not people just from the United States of America. Once again, this is the 21st century. This is a global point of view right now, and as such, you have to be global citizens. You have to be out there because we are connected. So easy to talk to. For example, I talk to my family in Costa Rica every day. In the same way, any student is going to be connected to people from different countries. And in order to be able to deal with cultural differences, not only language is important, but knowing about the culture itself, okay? Because if you're going to do business with somebody in a different country, you will have to be able, hopefully, to communicate on the same language, okay? But you will also have to learn how to read the signs of a good negotiation is, in this case, for example. And everyone, my personal opinion is that every student, every future professional should be ready for that. Every lumberjack has the opportunity to do it, and they have to be like that because the more you know about other places, the more successful you're going to be as a professional.
Most definitely. Speaking of that success, 1/3 of the Undergraduate Research Council has done study abroad.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say contributes to the success that they've had in ties with study abroad?
Well, in this case, I'm going to quote one of the students who came with us to Spain last year, Emma. She was very fearless. I was talking to her yesterday, and it was amazing to have her in class, to have somebody like her being part of the group, because she was fearless in terms of language, in terms of culture, in terms of making Spain something normal for her, okay? Because what I tell my students, and she is the best example of that, is that if you go to a different country, don't be an American. Don't be any kind of citizen, whatever your origin is. Be that person, be that culture. In our case, in our program for 4 weeks, okay? In her case, once again, she was always out there. She was exploring the city, okay? She did great in my class. She had an amazing time with the family she was living with, which is a very important part and something very particular about our two programs. And she did great because by being somebody else for a semester, she learned to be somebody else, and she learned to be somebody else that is going to make her a better future professional because she knows what is out there.
So, as you mentioned, Emma did a great job fully immersing herself,
Mm-hmm.
was just a natural with it. But what would you say is the biggest challenge that students usually face? Would it be not being able to fully immerse themselves in the culture?
At first, it is, and actually, that is what we call the honeymoon period, okay? During the first week, everyone is very happy. They love their families, etc. But during the second week, they start to see that things are different, however, not impossible, okay? And that is actually the success of our program, because when you are somebody else in a different culture, and in this case, a culture that speaks a different language, you have to give the best of you. You have to be very attentive. You have to learn how to read the culture. You have to be able how to communicate. And in that case, you're conquering yourself. You're conquering your own fears. And by doing that, you become a better person in every sense of the word.
So, what would you say to a student who may have those fears of doing the study abroad program, specifically Spain and Brazil? What would you tell them to conquer those fears?
Life is not impossible. People are good wherever you go. And what you get is what you give. Because something very important about students going on study abroad programs is that you guys have to keep in mind that you are representing SFA, Texas, USA, okay? So whatever image you provide, you give to your host family, to the local professors, to the local culture in general, that is going to be a life-changing experience, because you will see that you can be you, but you can also deal, learn, negotiate, and navigate a different culture. And once again, by doing that, you are becoming somebody even better.
So, in your own experience, how would you say students having that full immersion in a different country, specifically Spain or Brazil, give them the ability to think critically about global issues? Because obviously, Spain and Brazil are not like the world that they know here in America.
That's amazing. Okay. Something that I usually tell my students is that, for example, I'm teaching whatever class I'm teaching right now in Spanish. Okay. So I see my students for 50 minutes, okay, 3 times a week. Okay. Before class and after class, a different language is not used. Okay. It's not even considered sometimes. Okay. However, once in Madrid or Salvador de Bahia in Brazil, where we have our program there, it is a 24/7 experience. Anything you do, saying good morning to your family, sitting down with the rest of the family members, be a family member for a month, okay? Going outside, taking the metro, taking the bus, walking, buying coffee, going to any kind of supermarket, anything and everything you do, absolutely. It doesn't matter how tiny it is, everything is an experience. Why? Because you are interacting not only with the language, but with the culture. So learning doesn't stop.
So, in the world that we live in today, there's so many digital learning opportunities. And how do you see, or have you seen, the study abroad programs kind of evolved over the years? And what would you say that the study abroad programs have in an advantage over those digital learning opportunities?
We have immediate access to information. So, for example, people can go online and they can see videos from students, okay? Students who are not different from you, okay? Any lumberjack can be any student from any university in this country. And you can see the way they react. They can see some advice they are going to give them, how to navigate during the first week, okay? How to interact with the local family, things they learn. And you can also start practicing in advance that foreign language you're learning. So when you go there, you're going to know the basics, okay? And that's how you start building any language. At first, you say good morning. Next day, you can tell your family what you did the day before, okay? First weekend, you can tell your family what you're going to do in the future. So it's not only conjugating verbs, it's not only learning new vocabulary, but living the language, okay? It's not only learning, but experiencing that on a daily basis.
So, what would you say the most rewarding aspect is for the students, but also for you being the faculty advisor and just being able to see the students evolve over time? What would you say the most rewarding aspects are?
Little victories. Little victories, for example, walking to school by themselves the second or third day of the program. Okay. Mario, today I was able to read the indication on how to take the train and the station I'm supposed to get off, okay? Mario, as I was walking to school today, I went to this coffee shop and I got some coffee. Okay. Mario, I was waiting for the street light to change, and this person came to me and he or she asked me about how to find a store, something like that. Okay. Once again, little tiny details, but the students get to know that they can be that culture and they can communicate with people from other countries. Those are the little victories that at the end is going to create the most beautiful extra baggage you can have. Why? Because something new today, something new tomorrow, something new every day, and that is something that you're not going to forget and is going to create a new, better you. And I love saying this because people who travel, they change, and most of the times, hopefully, they change for good. And I want that to happen for the Lumberjacks.
If that hasn't convinced people to join, I don't know what will. What are some final words on study abroad?
Some people travel to know places. Some people travel to know themselves. Either or, do it. Why? Because when you go to a job interview, for example, in my department, I'm in charge of our translation program. And many of my students tell me that when they go and they apply for a job, okay, the first filter they find at the human resources offices is that, okay, bilingual people, yes, we are keeping this. And then they continue with the process because that is, once again, what today's society needs. People who are able to communicate not only in terms of words, but in terms of culture. How to read a new culture, how to create connections.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you so much for watching Lumberjack Impact as the viewer. Stay tuned for more episodes in the future. And for more content, go to youtube.com/JackTVSFA. For myself at the desk, to everyone here in the studio, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great day, and Axum.
This program is brought to you by the Department of Media and Communication at Stephen F. Austin State University.